All right, all right. What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to another Wednesday night HELOC Q&A, as well as the finance show here at the Kwak Brothers. Welcome, welcome. Last one we're going to be doing for the year, and we're going to be taking a break for the remainder of the year to celebrate Christmas as well as holidays. So next week, which technically is the New Year's Eve, we will not be having the Q&A live stream on YouTube as well as on Zoom. And same thing for the following week, which will be New Year's Eve. So we will not be doing the live stream then. So for the next two Wednesdays, we're going to take a break. And the next time we come back will be on the January 7th, I believe. Yeah, January 7th is when we'll be back to do the live stream. Now, I will be discontinuing doing the live stream on Zoom, and we're just going to do it all on YouTube. One thing I've noticed is that the quality of the video is horrendous, as some of you guys may have noticed, on the Zoom to YouTube live stream. So we're going to exclusively bring everything on YouTube. And for those that have been watching this on Zoom, we'll give you instructions on how to join the live stream, which, obviously will be easier to find because it's on YouTube. So that being said, we're going to kick things off for today and get the questions answered for you guys. And again, if you have questions, drop them down below. And even if you are watching the recorded version of this, so if you're later coming back, watching the live stream, the recording of it, feel free to drop a comment down below because I will obviously answer any questions that you guys may have even after the live stream is over. For those that are watching YouTube, you guys know, always send in emails and we'll be more than happy to address them as well. So this being the last one for the year, I'd love to hear what wishes and hopes you guys for 2026. Okay, what do you want to see 2026 be different than 2025? Because I know 2025, depending on how it went for you guys, you may have a different experience. I know for some of you, many of you I've talked to, it was a bit of a turbulent year, right? There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of questions regarding the economy. I know some people, the tariff situation kind of threw some and uncertain turn of events at work. Like I know an individual who works for a major sporting good company. I can't mention who it is. I know who is the director there, and he's basically shared that this past year, due to tariffs, that he has to make a lot of adjustments, right, in terms of supply chain, working with a new manufacturer. So his company was working with China, right? And many things come from China, as you guys know. And he had to find a different supplier as well as a manufacturer elsewhere to obviously, try to avoid the tariff as much as possible. So I know it was an interesting year this year for many of you. Some of you had a good year, some of you may not have. But yeah, we'd love to hear from you guys. What do you hope to see different come 2026? Okay, put your comment down below. Love to see you guys dream, think about what new changes you want to see, what goals you want to hit in 2026. Is it a certain investment goal? Is it a certain debt elimination goal? You want to have certain debt eliminated, right? Whatever the case might be. Let me know. Today, I'm actually going to show you guys a sneak preview of something that I've been working on with my team for almost 12 months. And we're going to put together an official announcement for this, but I want to do a sneak peek for you guys that are watching the live stream because you guys are tuned in and you guys are awesome. But I want to show you guys a sneak peek of an AI-driven budgeting app and a debt elimination calculator that we built. So think of it as a budgeting powered by AI, but it's also connected to a debt elimination calculator. So it can track, how much money and time you've saved and how much time you could potentially save, right? And this works just well for the HELOC strategy, aka the accelerated payoff strategy. So I'm going to show you guys a sneak preview, but the focus of this call, as you guys know, for those that are coming back, is to answer your questions. So if you have any questions about the accelerated payoff concept, certain investment decisions, tax, retirement, whatever the case might be. I'll do my best to answer your questions right here in the live stream. Of course, none of what we're going to be talking about is a substitute for a professional advice that you'll be getting, whether it's from an attorney, a tax professional, a CPA, or an agent, right? So, anything I showed today are simply my opinion and my insight based on my, over a decade of experience in finance and investment. So just know that, right? Just a little disclaimer before we go off to start answering questions, because I don't want to set the wrong impression or expectation. So as you guys are firing the questions to the chat, whether you're on Zoom or on YouTube Live, so I got both chat pulled up, as well as I'm keeping an eye on YouTube. I want to show you guys the sneak preview of this new tool that we built called Solve It. So I'm going to actually share my screen. Let me see if I can accommodate for this. All right. And I'm going to show you our new AI-driven budgeting app that also comes with the debt elimination calculator as well. So I want to introduce you to Solve It. So Solve It, by the way, the name actually is Latin. It stands for, it means to be released, to be set free. So, obviously the theme for what we do here at the Kwak Brothers is we want to help individuals manage their finances better, pay off their debt faster, and grow into their investments and really grow their retirement goals, and etc. So we built this software and this app, and soon we will be launching it on iOS mobile apps as well as Android. It is only available on web apps right now, so meaning desktop or laptop. So this is Solve It, guys, and just going to give you a little sneak preview. I'm going to log in to a sample account that we're putting together. There we go. All right. And I'm going to actually pause my screen real quick because I don't want to obviously share any credentials here. So I'm going to log in and show you guys what we built. And we've been working on this software for almost a year now. So yeah, we started this project late December last year. So pretty much call it a year. So I'm going to log in. There we go. Perfect. And I resume sharing. So there you go, guys. This is Solve It. This is a web app that we've developed, a software that we developed powered by AI, as well as many other things that I'll show you. This is currently in beta right now. And so if you go over to, this is the dashboard, shows me how much interest I've saved so far, how much time I saved so far, tracks my debt balance for me. So these are all demo accounts, by the way, just random numbers. And going over to budget, it's going to track your income and cash flow. So incomes, tracks your income and expenses, cash flow, right? So in this month, for this particular sample account, you'll notice that, there's income, expense, cash flow, right? And some of you may already be using a budgeting app or budgeting software, whatever's out there. And so much like many of the apps that you may already use, we also have the ability to connect your accounts via Plaid or Stripe, which, many of you guys might be familiar with that. So you can connect it to your real life accounts, such as, if you have Chase or Citibank or PNC, American Express, whatever the case might be, SoFi. And so you can connect to just about most financial institutions that are out there. So if I'm looking for, let's say, PenFed, yeah, so there's PenFed Credit Union. If I'm, let's say, looking for, what's another one? BMO, right? BMO is another big one. So BMO, okay, there we go. So you're going to be able to connect your real life accounts, whether it be checking account, credit cards, mortgages, auto loans, line of credit, right? And connect them to Solve It, and Solve It will automatically download all of those transactions into your account for you, and then categorize them into your budget using AI. So it will then, obviously put them all in these categories, which is nice and cool. So auto, bills and utilities, dinings and drink, right? So categorize everything into your budget for you. And then it's going to take all that data, all the transaction information, and create this beautiful debt elimination scenario. So just as a demo, let me show you an example. Okay, so here we have accelerated payoff, right? If you want to use a HELOC to pay off your mortgage faster, we go next. All right. And we can choose if you want to go manual mode or AI assisted mode. So manual mode essentially is if you want to be in the driver, seat and really control what the income looks like, the expenses, what debt gets paid off, chunk size, if you're doing the secondly HELOC method, you'll decide all that kind of, you get to decide all that by yourself, right? Whereas the AI system mode, what it does, the AI in Solve It, so Solve It AI will analyze all of your income, all of your expenses, transactions, your behavior, your activities, your pattern, and your finances, and suggest the best approach in paying off your debt and your mortgage within the accelerated payoff concept. So here we are going over to AI system mode. Give it a couple of seconds. It's analyzing all the numbers, crunching all the numbers through AI. And we are using, I believe this is Gemini. So Solve It AI is ultimately powered by Gemini, which is a Google AI. And so you can see right away, AI analysis based on 87 days of my budgeting history has figured out that the secondly HELOC is the best way to go, right? And we have our, obviously first HELOC is not available because the line of credit that I have isn't going to make that work. So we're still working on a lot of this. This is all beta, obviously, but you can see that on the limited amount of data that I have in this sample account, it's saying average income of 3846, which is not true, obviously, but it's going to give you some recommendation. So, it's going to recommend, hey, consolidate this card here and this Costco card, and you'll save an additional $1,400, right? And then it'll give us also a qualitative analysis as far as, hey, consider shifting, your dining and drinks budget by a certain amount or whatever, right? And so it'll give you some qualitative coaching and guidance as to how to make your payoff better. And so you got all your different, debt accounts. And so if you like what the AI created, but don't really like maybe some aspects of it, you can always edit parameters. And you can change the numbers. So you can say, hey, my average income is actually, let's say, for example, 12,000, living expenses of 8,000. I'm going to chunk, by 5,000 a month. All right. And then I'm going to pay off the Costco card off first, and then the Target card, right? And then hit implement strategy, give this a name. So I'm going to say AI example. And then set the date as to when you want to actually start this plan, this strategy. And so when you're ready to go, hit save and calculate, and voila, the AI has created us a plan where we can see using this very parameter, we can expect to pay off all of our debt in 9 years and 6 months, saving approximately $163,145. And you can see kind of the day by day how it plays out. Right? The chunks that apply, the line of credit transfers, meaning our paycheck being deposited into our line of credit, right? And so track all that for you. And what's really cool is that we have a simulate button. So in the future, in the event that, you want to maybe add a bonus, right? So a good example, let's say you're expecting a tax return coming soon, right? So let's say you're expecting a tax refund of $5,000 and you predict that you're going to get your tax refund by February 28th. Okay. And if I hit simulate, it'll give us how much of a faster payoff and how much more are we going to save on our interest if we were to add $5,000 of our tax refund over to our, paying down our debt. Okay, so it gives us a simulation, which is really cool. So this is the power of Solvit. It's really simple, right? Add your accounts in, let Solvit do all your budgeting for you, essentially, right? Using AI. We have also a notification system for alerts. So if you're off your budget, or if you're off track, or if you go negative, or some categories you go over, Solvit will let you know via an email or text. You can opt into both or either, and it'll keep you in track so that you don't go off your budgeting. But also it takes all that transaction data, and it understands and feeds the calculator and gives you a guidance, and obviously calculates the best and optimal path to help you paying off your debt and your mortgage as fast as possible. So that is Solvit, guys. Very simple, provides tracking using the power of AI. It knows your budget, your finances. It keeps track of things for you. So it's a very powerful tool that we've developed. So if you guys are wondering how to get access to this, this is only currently available to our clients. So clients of Accelerated Strategies are on beta right now. Come next year around March or April, we will have it ready for iOS as well as Android app development, but also still available for our Accelerated Strategies client. And then we're thinking sometime mid to late 2026, we will launch some kind of a standalone version of this where you can download it on your phone and then pay a small subscription moving forward, right? So we still have a little bit of ways to go to making this, near perfect in terms of getting it to you guys in your hands and for you to start being able to use it as a budgeting tool, but also as a way to track, paying off your debt faster, see how much money you've saved, and just keeps you motivated overall. So that is Solvit for you guys. Again, it's available right now only for Accelerated Strategies clients. So if you are a client watching, the live stream, then obviously you guys can expect to get it. But yeah, that's Solvit for you guys, which is really cool. Trish is asking, looking forward to checking out the new Solvit app. My goal for 2026 is to develop my portfolio withdrawal strategy commensurate with all the second and third order effects. So taxes, Medicare, IRMMA, RMDs. Yeah, another thing that we're adding to Solvit, by the way, Trish, is that we're going to be adding wealth tracking as well. So if you have a 401k, IRA, a brokerage account, we're going to be able to support adding those into Solvit as well, so you can track, right, your net worth as well as, see how your portfolio is growing over time. So you'll be able to kind of, it's an aggregator, right? So if you have multiple IRAs, multiple 401ks, we'll be able to sync all that into, be able to track it all under one umbrella, as opposed to you got a brokerage account here and then 401k over there and IRA over there. It just makes it harder to track. So we'll be able to do that. Okay. Trish is saying, will there be any tutorials for the Solvit app, or is it user friendly? Great question. So if I were to go back to Solvit, the very first time that you log in, you're going to see a little tour that looks like that. So when you log in at Solvit for the first time, it'll automatically start a tour for you. So if you hit next, obviously it's going to explain like, hey, this is all your financial metrics. This is, estimated interest savings. Here's your total balance over time, right? Here's all your debt accounts. So it'll give you a guided tour, which is really nice, right? So start tour. So it gives you, hey, these are your income and expenses. This is your cash flow trend. These are your accounts and your goals, your transactions, and your budget. So it will give you a tutorial, as well as if you ever need help, you can always click on the lower right-hand corner and ask the AI. So you can say, hey, how do I connect my HELOC account, right? Ask the AI, and it will give you an answer. Hey, here's how to add your HELOC account to Solvit, right? So it'll give you that info, which is pretty cool. Okay. So yeah, Solvit's going to have all that for you, which is really cool. It'll give you self-guided tours. It will have videos and tutorials, AI chat assistants. You can do all that through Solvit. Okay. By the way, anyone have fun things planned for Christmas or Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate? I think Hanukkah technically started, right? I think it started a day or two ago. Yeah. Yeah, and for those that are jumping in, just FYI, next week and the following week, which is the 24th and the 31st, we will not be doing the live stream. And also, when we pick things back up in January, which will be January 7th, when we're going to do continue to live stream again, we will exclusively doing the live stream on YouTube. So we will no longer do them on Zoom, because one thing that we noticed is that on Zoom, when we broadcast it into YouTube, the quality suffers like crazy. Like you might already notice that I look really fuzzy and blurry on YouTube. So we're gonna stream directly to YouTube so that you get all the better camera quality and everything. Uh, and I like YouTube Live better in terms of being able to see all the chat faster. We can interact fast. Um, yeah, and we'll figure out if you guys ever want to call in to ask questions, we'll figure that out, with calling in, and we can have a dialogue and conversation and so forth. So, just want to give you guys an update on what the plan is for the next couple of weeks, because I know we got holidays and Christmas kind of wedged in on the Wednesdays. Okay. All right. All right, guys. Well, any questions, shoot them down below. I am yours. And if we don't see a whole lot of questions, we'll go and obviously end the night early, give you guys some time back. But if you guys have questions, put it in the chat, whether you're on Zoom or on YouTube Live, put your questions in the chat and I'll keep an eye on it in terms of any questions you guys have, and address them here today. And again, a lot of people with holidays, people are traveling. I know several people traveling to see their grandkids or their kids, vice versa, right? So kids traveling to parents to go see them. And so I know pretty much after the second week of December, a lot of people, are traveling, busy with festivities, events, right? So completely understandable that today's going to be a little lighter. Yeah. By the way, I don't know if you guys noticed, but the unemployment numbers just came out, and it seems like despite the fact that we added more jobs, the unemployment number went up quite a bit. It spiked. So I think both Wall Street Journal and several other news articles have mentioned it and are reporting it. But this is really interesting because this is something that the Federal Reserve has been paying attention to for months, right? The two big indication or the indicator for the Federal Reserve to lower interest rate was the inflation, long-term inflation, and unemployment. So inflation, by and large, I think is going to stay around that 2.5% to 3% for the long term. I think it's going to stick around for some time. But the other aspect that the Federal Reserve was really paying attention to was the unemployment numbers. So I'm curious to see if they are going to change their stance, because last week when the Federal Reserve lowered the interest rate by 25 basis points, they pretty much came out and said, yeah, we're probably not going to be really, lowering the interest rates for a while, right? They kind of signaled and said, hey, we're going to pause lowering any rates moving forward. But here we are a week or so later, unemployment numbers aren't looking that great. So it makes me wonder if the Federal Reserve is going to make a U-turn and go, actually, you might go and do another 25 basis point cut in terms of the federal interest rate, Federal Reserve, the overnight borrowing rates. I'm curious to see if they're going to come back in January or even February and say, hey, we're seeing better data. We have a new information that would suggest that we do need to actually cut interest rate to kind of help stimulate the economy based on the unemployment numbers we've seen, this month. So very interesting. Kevin Cavallaro, welcome, sir. So Kevin says, doing research on HELOC strategy and found an issue executing in the state of Texas. Thoughts? Yeah, so Texas, Kevin, as much as I love that state, it is actually a state that I've been considering wanting to move to. I'm in Illinois, sadly, and my government here, taxes and my governor in the city, Chicago, it's all hot mess. I would love to be a Texan. Yeah, Texas does have a real weird rule about HELOCs. So a couple things like a lot of the banks won't do it, especially first lien HELOCs. And if there are banks that do HELOCs down in Texas, they have this weird rule where the minimum draw that you have to make on the HELOC at any given point has to be $4,000. Now, that's really not a big problem with accelerated payoff because the way that we suggest and the way that we teach our strategy is instead of making draws from the HELOC directly for, gas, food, groceries, movie tickets, instead of, taking money out of the HELOC for those individual purchases, what I like to teach and what I like to be a proponent of is using a credit card, right, to make all those individual purchases and come towards the end of the month or whenever your credit card statement balance is due, then draw the funds out of the HELOC to pay, off the credit card statement balance completely so that we are avoiding, any kind of interest costs on the credit card. And B, we essentially have delayed taking any money out of the HELOC, excuse me. And thus, we've essentially kept the HELOC balance low for as long as possible. So whenever you get your paycheck, whether it's on the 1st, the 15th, or every other week, what you want ideally is you want to take all your paycheck into the HELOC, right, to lower the average daily balance, but you're not taking any money out directly from the HELOC, for those everyday life expenses that you're going to encounter. You're going to use your credit card instead, pay off your credit card completely at the statement balance due date, no interest costs on the HELOC, but during those long period of days where you didn't take any money out of the HELOC is the savings opportunity to lower the average daily balance, thus translating to lower costs in the HELOC. So it's not going to be a big problem in the state of Texas because most likely you are probably going to, for most people, are probably going to spend more than $4,000 a month on living expenses, right? If you're not, right, it's still not a problem because you can always borrow and just, put the money back into the HELOC, whatever access you don't need. So it won't be a big challenge in Texas. We work with Texas clients all the time. That's just one thing that we have to kind of prepare for is just doing a minimum draw of $4,000 out of the HELOC. But should not be a problem if we are using a credit card to group all of our expenses and then just paying it all off with one-time draw from the HELOC. Okay, so Kevin, does that make sense? I hope that kind of makes it clear in terms of why it's not the end of the world when it comes to the strategy. Okay, Trish is asking, if I were to sell my current primary residence, which is linked to my first lien HELOC through seller financing, will that cancel out my HELOC? So it depends on how you sell the property, to Trish, right? And I'm not an attorney. I'm not a lawyer, so please talk to an attorney, a real estate attorney regarding this. But if you were to sell the property on seller financing, more specifically something called contract for deed, then you might not have an issue. Again, keyword might not, because I'm not a lawyer, and it really depends on your state laws regarding this. But if you sell your property on contract for deed, because technically you're not conveying your deed to whoever your buyer is, you're not transferring the ownership, right? Because the whole idea of contract for deed, what it is essentially it's a promise to buy or promise to transfer the deed as long as the buyer satisfactorily pays the balance off. So, I'm just going to use an example here and make up some numbers. Let's say, Trish, you're selling the property for $100,000 on seller financing. What contract for deed is that technically the responsibility and the rights of ownership has now been passed to the buyer. So, anything like maintenance, code enforcement, repairs, capital improvements, management of the property, technically all that ownership or all that responsibility legally rests upon the buyer. But legally speaking, you still hold the deed. In many cases, the deed will be in an escrow, right? So with an attorney's office, so that when the buyer completely pays you off, right? They're done paying the seller financing, the deed is then released over to the buyer and the deed is transferred, recorded, and the sale technically is completed. So as long as the deed is not being transferred, in many cases, the banks pretty much don't know if you sold the property or not, right? So the deed has to transfer in order for the bank to recognize, oh yeah, this property has been sold. So I think what you're concerned about, Trish, is the due on sales clause, which exists pretty much on, virtually all mortgages, all home equity loans, home equity line of credit included. So if you were to transfer the deed over to another person as part of a sale, then yes, it could trigger the due on sales clause, which will require you as the borrower to completely pay, the balance on the first lien HELOC. So this was part of the German Saint-Germain Act, if I'm saying that right, of 1978, I think. It's either 1978 or 1984, one of those two laws. That required it essentially to where whenever you transfer the deed to another party or person, you're required to essentially pay the remaining balance in full for the mortgage. So it's called due on sale. The bank calls a note essentially saying, hey, whatever you owe in terms of your remaining principal balance, you have to pay it all off because you technically sold it to another party. Okay. So if you were to do it on contract for deed or agreement for deed, depending on the state you live in, that should not be an issue. But again, consult with an attorney because I am not a legal attorney and this is not legal advice. Okay. But great question, though. All right. All right. Any other questions regarding the HELOC strategy, accelerated payoff, finance, investment, tax? Although I'm not a tax professional or an attorney, but I can always give you insight based on my experience. Okay. Any other question? Excellent. That's how I understand it. I will run it by my real estate attorney. Yeah, and it's a simple email question, right? You don't have to pay. It shouldn't be a billable thing, right? Unless you're actually like having a full-blown 30-minute counseling session, a consultation session with your attorney, then they might bill you. But if it's a quick email like, hey, Mrs. or Mr. Attorney, I got a quick question. Is the due on sale clause going to be an issue if I don't technically transfer my deed, but I sold the property on installment contract? Is that going to be an issue? And so the attorney is going to give you advice, based on your situation. Okay. Okay. Any other questions, or maybe you have a fun holiday plan that you want to, brag about? Okay. Are you going on a vacation, cruise or family gathering? We'd love to hear it, guys. Love to hear it. All right. Yeah, Christmas is almost a week away, guys. It's hard to believe. And it's we're looking at the end of the year, which is kind of crazy. What are your thoughts on Governor DeSantis trying to eliminate property taxes? So fundamentally, and I'll be very transparent and show you my colors, essentially, right? Show you my hand. I'm a conservative libertarian, right? Socially, I lean conservative. Fiscally, I lean conservative. But I'm also libertarian in the sense that, like, I just want the government to leave us alone, right? Like, there's a lot of things that the government is trying to pry its nose into that they have no business in. And do I believe that the government should have some base level of protection and making sure that things like property ownership law, right? Protection of private ownership, protection of free enterprise, protection of the innocence, and enforcement of you know, laws in terms of criminality. Yeah, I believe that the government should, right, provide those basic protection as well as governance to help make sure that there's order, because otherwise it'd be chaos. And so I think those are the base level things that the government should do, and that's their job. And it should always be in the lens of how does the government serve its people, right? I mean, I'm bewildered by this fact that there's government politicians that made it a career to stay in the Senate or Congress, for that long, right? I mean, some of the senators and congressmen, they've been there for 40, 50 years, never had a real job. It's wild that this is a reality for the United States government. But speaking of Governor DeSantis's idea of limiting property taxes, if he can figure it out, if he can manage the checks and balances in terms of making it fiscally, more power to him. And if Florida figures out how to eliminate property taxes and figures out how to balance the budget at the same time, you're gonna see Florida be the next biggest state ever. Like you're gonna see a mass exodus and it's already happening, from California, New York, New Jersey, Illinois, right? All these states that, I would argue are poorly ran, fiscally speaking. And many of them are going to run to Florida because, shoot, like no property taxes and no income taxes. Holy crap, man. I mean, it's like that right there for a lot of people living in California can easily be a $20,000 to $30,000 lift just like that, right? So if you're in California paying, $8,000 to $10,000 in property taxes, plus you're paying, crazy amount of income tax as well as other taxes, which is crazy, and not to mention all the red tape that comes with California politics, and all of a sudden they move to Florida and they're not paying income tax and they're not paying property taxes. Oh man, that's a sell, right? Right? As long as they can continue to live off of the California wage but live in Florida, I mean, wow. I mean, that's a crazy win. I think the way that Florida is going to make that work, there's a couple ways I can see them making that work. They're either going to have to increase the sales tax, right? So, which I think is a more fairer version of taxation, right? You're taxing consumption, in combination of like vice taxes, right? Increased tax on alcohol, increased tax on smoking and cigarettes, increased taxes on those. But I also see a potential for like tourism tax. So you guys all know Florida, Orlando, there's Disney World, Universal Studios. I can see taxes being levied on at the tourism level as well. So there's other consumption level taxation that I can see it to help backfill or at least balance a lot of the budget for the Florida government. Now, I don't live in Florida. I've never audited Florida's financials, so I don't know how much of a gap that property taxes will, eliminating property taxes will create. But again, if Florida can figure it out, right, and if Florida can be that shining star where, either they completely eliminate property taxes or massively reduce it, oh my gosh, it's going to be a template for all the other states, hopefully, to be able to eliminate it. Now, I agree with Governor DeSantis. Like, once you bought a property, it's absurd to have it fully, have the mortgage paid off, only to then basically rent the land from the government. I agree with him, right? You don't really fully own the house, technically, right? Because if you stop paying your property taxes, the city or county government can basically foreclose on you, and they have the right to do so because they're the government. And so I agree with the philosophy of what Governor DeSantis is talking about. It's wild that you buy a property, you pay it off, you've been paying the mortgage, you finally pay it off, and then you still have property taxes you have to pay, right? Which I think is crazy. So I do like the idea. Again, they just got to figure it out how to balance the budget, because if eliminating property taxes all of a sudden then creates this deficit that you need to pay the teachers, pay the firefighters, pay the police officers, pay for public services, then that's going to be a problem because we got to make sure our law enforcement as well as firefighters get paid because those are things that we need to ensure that there's law enforcement as well as basic level of health and safety going on in city and counties. Okay. So that's my thought. Again, you can disagree with me. You can say, "Oh no, how would you ever eliminate property taxes?" Right? You can disagree with me, but all I'm saying is that there could be a better way to create income, revenue for the government to still fund many of the programs that we need. Right? I'm not saying we need to abolish the police station or police, the law enforcement, but if they can figure it out, okay, I think, yeah, there's got to be a better way, and that's all I'm saying. Cameron Whitaker is asking, how about putting the property on a trust and vehicles? So there's actually the one thing that I know a lot of people need to understand is that not everyone should be putting their properties into a trust, whether it be a irrevocable, revocable living trust. Not everyone should be doing it because not only there's a cost involved in setting it all up, but if you don't have a whole lot of assets to begin with, and you don't have a whole lot of protection, you don't have your estate is not as complex, then it might not make sense to have a trust to begin with, right? You might just get by with basic, strong life insurance policy as well as basic will and, having a strong will set up, and updating it, making sure that there's a clear beneficiary and contingency plans for things, because there's costs involved not only to set up a proper trust, but you have to fund it, and there's also ongoing costs associated with it. So, I like to say to people, if you don't have, a net worth of $1 million or more, it really isn't worth looking at it in terms of the cost versus benefit analysis. Okay. I'm not saying that you should not prepare, for your estate and, end of life planning. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it or think about it. All I'm saying is there is an appropriate level and timing of which you enact or implement things like trusts. But for most people I'd say if you have less than $500,000 in net worth, it almost is never worth doing and setting up trust. You might be better off maybe setting up a will, good insurance policies, maintain your will once a year. Again, I don't know your situation at all. I don't know the uniqueness of what's going on in your life. So I would definitely consult with an estate planning professional, whether it be an attorney or there's, paralegal type of services that are out there that could give you some assistance. But here's what I will warn you of, because there's a lot of services that are out there that will try to sell you on estate planning, and don't be a sucker, right? Just be very educated before talking to a service or an attorney, because they will try to sell you on a $4,000, $5,000 estate planning package. And I will tell you, for 90% of you guys will need it. And if you do need it, $4,000, $5,000 is probably too low for you. And you need to actually talk to a high level estate planning professional that knows what they're doing and can actually put together a real plan as opposed to a cookie cutter template. So do your education, do your research, right? There are videos on YouTube, other content creators that make videos on estate planning that do a really great job in explaining all the different parts so that when you do or get to a point where you have a conversation with an estate planning professional, you can at least have an educated conversation with them and not get suckered into buying something you don't need, at the end of the day. So that's my warning for you guys, is because you will go out there, research some estate planning services, and they'll quote you $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 for cookie cutter template for estate planning. And you not knowing much about it, you might just say yes because it sounds good, and you just waste the money, right? Instead, take a couple hours just looking at videos, do some basic research, read some articles about the basics of estate planning, know the terminology, know the concepts, know what type of trust you might need or would be interested in. And then get to a point where you can have a conversation with an estate planning service. And at that point, you're less likely to be suckered into buying something you don't need, right? Because then you can at least ask educated questions, right? Excuse me. You'll know what you need and what you don't need, because you know your situation well, pretty much more than anyone else, right? So yeah, so that's what I would do, Cameron. Like for me, I do have a living trust, right? So I have to basically, excuse me, I took all my assets, right, all the LLCs and corporations that I have, right, partnerships, um, vehicles, and retitled it to the trust. So technically, I no longer own it, right? Like even my home, I don't own my home, my trust does, and again, the whole reason why I did that is so that as a trustee and the grantor technically, um, you know, if something were to happen to me, there's a smoother transition of, beneficiary funds get dispersed the right way. I have specific instruction as to what is to be carried out in case something were to happen to me, So, um, yeah, all these things, the more that you have to protect, the more resources you're gonna obviously invest into protecting and making sure that the assets that you have within the trust is being passed down to your beneficiaries, be it your spouse or kids or whoever, in a way that you most desire to, and in a manner that brings peace, after you're long gone. Okay. All right. But great question, Cameron. I know I gave you kind of a long-winded answer, but um, yeah, I just want to more so give you a high level, unless you had a specific question regarding estate planning, trust, yeah, whatever specific, or is, yeah, anything specific in that context, feel free to ask and follow up. Okay. Any other questions, guys? We're down to like the last 14 minutes, 13 minutes. Um, I'm here for you. I'm here to service you guys. By the way, if you guys do become a client of Accelerated Strategies or really any of our companies, the two companies we have, Accelerated Strategies, and we have Accelerated Real Estate Academy, where we teach people how to buy cash flowing rental properties. You guys get to spend more time with us. My clients have my direct cell phone number and my email, and so they can reach out to ask questions. So what you're experiencing now is a little bit of a what do you call it? Like a Costco sampler of a bigger thing that we do. And we're not shy about letting you know that yes, we're a business. YouTube is not full time for us. I know a lot of people, YouTube is full time for them, but we run businesses and we actually have services that help people with finances. So, yeah, we're not shy about letting you know that yes, we have services. Yes, we have products and programs. If you guys are interested, reach out. But I know my goal here on YouTube, at least spending time with you guys, is no holds back. I'm just gonna pour out as much value and as much content and as much helpful information to you. And in the process, hope to get to know you guys a little bit, and vice versa. You guys get to know me a little bit as well in the process. So I'm here to serve you guys. I'm here to add value, even for an hour of the week. And if I can help at least one of you guys out there to make better decisions when it comes to your finances or to think about new ideas, then I've done my job, and I'm happy that I've done so. And so, yeah, guys, we're down to the last 10 minutes. Yeah, I mean, if this is it, we'll call it a night. But really, the next time I'll see you guys will be January 7th, because we'll be taking breaks for the next 2 weeks. So if I don't see you till now and then, obviously have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, and hope you guys have great memory, quality time with your family, and may it be a festive season for you. Of course, I have a faith background. I'm a Christian. So, of course, Christmas is a big deal, right? This is a time where we get to celebrate the Advent, as well as, the arrival and coming of Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior who died for the sin of the world. And so, yeah, Trish, wishing you and your family a Merry Christmas and a wonderful 2026. Likewise, Trish, I pray that 2026 and all the many years to come will be a prosperous and blessing to you and your family. You know, as we advance in our years and as we advance through the years coming ahead, yeah, I do pray and hope that new opportunities and new doors will be open for you, Trish, and all of you watching this as well. Not just Trish, but for all of you who, you know, you guys have dreams, you guys have goals, you guys have aspirations when it comes to finances. I do sincerely pray and hope that, you know, if not for the rest of the year, but for 2026, it will be a turning point, a transformational point in your finances, in your business, in your work, in your family, in whatever endeavors you have got going in your heart. I do hope that this will be a new turning point, a new leaf where you get to experience life to its full and the blessing and prosperity coming in 2026. So, can you repeat when Solvit will be live for all members? So right now, Solvit is available only for Accelerated Strategies clients. So if you are a client with us, you'll have beta access to it. Come sometime next year, I want to imagine June or July. Don't quote me on it. Don't hold me to it. But sometime next year, mid to late 2026 is when we plan to release a general release, a subscription model essentially to pretty much everybody. We're still ironing out a lot of details. We're still ironing out a lot of, you know, plans around Solvit. So again, don't, you know, hold me on it. Don't quote me on it. But we do have plans of making Solvit accessible to everybody and everyone and anyone possible. You know, we got ideas for Solvit to be translatable to other languages as well. So, you know, to Spanish, to French, you know, obviously English. So trying to get it to go international. And then some other cool tools and features we're going to be adding into it, like wealth tracking, subscription tracking, tax AI as well. So Solvit will be able to read your budget and find opportunities for additional tax savings that maybe your CPA or tax professional might miss, right? And so we're going to add a bunch of suite of features later next year that we hope will enhance your finances, enhance your decision-making ability when it comes to finances, and ultimately help you save money on taxes, help you save money on interest and time, and help you grow your investment, right? And ultimately, I hope it will be a tool where you no longer are in a disadvantaged state, but rather you're in an advantageous state where you can pay less interest to the banks and less taxes to the government, right? Which are both a win-win for all of us, right? Yeah. All right. Any other questions, guys? Questions. I mean, this is the final live stream for the year, guys. Final live stream. Can you guys believe it? 2025 just went by so quick. Man, so quick. It's pretty wild. Okay. Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll wrap it up for the final minute for the year. And again, if you guys are watching the recording or after the live stream, again, feel free to put your comments down below. I do pay attention to the comments. It is something that I use and read and glean out off of to make more videos and obviously have ultimate conversation with you guys. So, yeah, if this is it, we'll call it a night. We'll wrap it up and we'll resume back next year, January 7th, 2026, same time, 8 p.m. Again, we won't be doing this on Zoom anymore. We will be moving forward exclusive on YouTube so that we can get better live streaming quality and video quality for you guys. Because I think the streaming from Zoom over to YouTube makes the video quality horrible. So we'll make sure we do that in 2026. All right, guys. Again, Next 2 weeks, no live stream. Back on January 7th. That being said, have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holiday, Happy New Year, and we'll see you guys January 7th, 2027. Take care, guys. 2026. There you go. Take care, guys.